Why brand and marketing is becoming increasingly more important when we are talking about tech or fintech?
I honestly think that it's becoming more important generally. Having authenticity and having creativity and being a brand that really kind of stands out and does things differently is the only way you can truly become A, global, B, successful.
Nadia Ivanova,
Chief Communications Officer at Unlimit
and co-leader of
Tech Island's Marcoms community
in Cyprus.
First thing I do when I hear about a company or a brand, I go to things like social media. So if the page and the feed and the imagery are very simple and cheap looking, that would cement my approach to what kind of brand it is. I believe that every point counts in a brand.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Made in Cyprus, big business stories from a tiny island. And it's a special episode today because we're gonna finally have the opportunity to geek a bit into brand and marketing with Nadia Ivanova, Chief Communication Officer of Unlimit, co-leader of Tech Island Marcoms community, and many other things as well. I know you're a busy woman, so thank you very much for giving us some of your time.
Thank you so much for having me. This is my first podcast, so I'm very excited.
Great. I'm glad I'm the one bringing you into the world of podcasts. But I saw some of your talks. I saw some of your content. You're a terrific speaker. So if you've done that, this is easy peasy. Listen, Nadia, I want to go straight into the core. Why brand and marketing is becoming increasingly more important when we are talking about tech or fintech specifically?
Well, I honestly think that it's becoming more important generally in the world of business. And I think the answer is very, very simple. For a very long time, businessmen, doesn't matter whether they were in tech or fintech or in any other type of business vertical, always saw marketing and brand as, it's something secondary. And it's something that it's a bunch of people just wasting my money.
And nice to have.
Yeah. And I would say that they would probably get to the point of properly looking into marketing and investing into marketing at a point where they become more enterprise level rather than mid-size and startups.
Oh my God, it's the story of my life.
Right? So what happened in the past years is oversaturation. So if before you could have a number of tech companies that were literally copying each other, doing exactly the same thing from a brand perspective, it was the same colors, it was the same, trigger words, because everybody was, rapidly expanding and rapidly growing and cutting edge technology and yada, yada, yada.
What about the leading company in XYZ industry?
All of them were the leading companies, right? And they were literally following the same templates when it came to creativity and marketing and brand.
Yeah.
You could just literally change the logo, leave everything the same, and it would fit. Then digitalization happened. We had a huge shift in platforms, in the channels of communication and the channels of marketing, because we started off, even 10 years ago, with, the key social media channels like Meta and Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn as well. And they had very strict rules in regards to their format. They kind of stayed within their boundaries. We had Instagram that was more photos, YouTube that was more long format of video, Meta that was more, this is my friends, let's chat events, and then LinkedIn, this is my CV. Then what happened is the borders started blurring. We had TikTok enter, Snapchat enter. We started seeing the lines of the formatting shift, and we started seeing Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Now, when we all know video is key, and we all know that short, bite-sized video is one of the best way to promote content, but you see it everywhere now. So you started getting the same type of content, the same format of content on all the platforms in a huge amount. And what happened to the audience? They got tired of it. They got sick of it. Yeah. So getting through that noise became much harder than before. And everybody was like, you know what? We've had enough of the same narrative. We had enough of the same trigger words. We had enough of all of this similar type of salesy promotional content. What else have you got? So the old rules of the game stopped working. And this is when everybody was like, uh-oh, but what do we do now? We can't no longer not pay attention to this and just, let people do standard things and not invest into this and not kind of push the boundaries of creativity when it comes to brand, because nobody will care anymore about us. So that's why I feel that in today's world, having authenticity and having creativity and being a brand that really kind of stands out and does things differently is the only way you can truly become A, global, B, successful. You won't be able to grow into enterprise level if you don't invest into those things.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that's also you're speaking about the journey of Unlimit as well, right? So it started in Europe in a few locations, and then really went into a global. But also it was a story of constant changes from the brand perspective as well.
Yeah, I would say that Unlimit and the whole kind of rebranding and kind of brand transformation story followed very closely with what I just said, because we started with the company initially began back in 2009.
Yeah.
I joined the company 5 years ago.
And back then was CardPay.
Yes, CardPay.
Yeah. So with CardPay, then Unlimit, and then Unlimit.
Yes. And when it was initially founded in 2009, it was a small company that was predominantly focused on card processing. Yeah. So hence the name CardPay. Yeah. Very, very direct name.
Functional, no emotions, just the job done.
Exactly.
Get the job done.
We do card payments. We are called CardPay. And it worked.
Yeah.
However, by 2019, the company's product portfolio had evolved and expanded to a point where it was just not card payments anymore. It was alternative payment methods. It was a corporate account solution. It was card issuing. We were dabbling and already thinking towards doing banking as a service. So it was just so much more than card payments.
Yeah.
So we kind of came to a point where the old brand was just wrong. It no longer represented the company and the essence of the company and who we were. On top of that, it was very, very, I would say, standard for a financial company of those times. You had this very dull green color with white. Everything was very corporate, very kind of...
Because green is the color of money.
Of course. You know how it is. So it was boring.
Yeah.
It was just simply boring. And we were not boring. We were a team of young people. Our CEO at that time, I don't want to lie, but I believe he was about 35 years old. So he was super young, and he's still super young, and very kind of dynamic. And we were always kind of pushing the boundaries of, okay, what is the next? Like, it was never enough for us as a company. It was never enough for us as a team. We always wanted more. We wanted to expand to new regions. We wanted to do more. So corporate old school didn't really sit well with all of this that was happening inside. So we came to the decision that, you know what, we need to do the rebranding. And obviously for us, the rebranding started happening during the pandemic. And well, great times. Everybody was like, ooh, you know, what's going to happen? And we were like, you know what? Let's just rebrand. Let's just do it.
I mean, problems are not enough, you know? Like,
no.
The pandemic is not enough. Like, let's make it a tiny bit harder.
Let's just make it harder. So we started kind of working with a creative agency and kind of trying to find this new direction for a brand. And Unlimit was what we chose. And the reason why we chose Unlimit was very simple. It was actually a symbiosis of two words. So it was unlim from unlimited and int from international. So unlimited international expansion for all of our clients worldwide.
And was the renaming always in the cards? Or
Yeah.
it was, So you knew they wanted to go away from that. Yeah, because card, it was not only...
Exactly. We didn't want the name to limit us.
Yeah.
And we felt that the old name limited us in many, many ways.
Yeah.
So that's how Unlimit came to be. And we started working towards that and kind of building out the brand. We went for much kind of bolder colors.
Yeah.
We didn't want the old school colors. We still wanted to keep the essence of green in it, but we went for a very neon green. And we call it the Unlimit Green now. So we just kind of really wanted to oomph it up and kind of start a conversation about, not today, but tomorrow. And we had, for a very long time, our slogan was ready for tomorrow, because that's what we aspired as a brand. We aspired as a team, but also what we wanted to provide to our customers. We wanted to provide the stability in the ever-changing tomorrow, so that while others observe, they can know how to take an advantage of something.
Safe harbor in the midst of all the changes.
Exactly. So that was kind of where Unlimit happened. Now, fast forward a couple of years, what we realized, and the main reason why we dropped the N, is actually our customers. We are a global company, and a lot of our customers are from Latin America and Asia.
Yeah.
And pronouncing the word unlimit, they all pronounced it unlimit. So we just kind of came to the conclusion that we'll just drop the N and simplify life for everyone.
Love it.
Because half of the people were calling it Unlimit already. And to be fair, I wouldn't say that it was a change that was very much noticed. So we dropped the N, the logo stayed more or less the same, the branding stayed the same. We changed the website a lot this year because, again, we feel that we're ready to transform and take it even further with the brand. And we kind of always make sure that we are not stopping on the evolution of what we want our branding to look like. Because I am a firm believer that, again, like I said, the environment, the platforms, the audience is constantly changing and getting more and more saturated with what they get. So the brand that we started off in 2020 and the brand that we have today should be different. It cannot stay the same, because what color combinations were young and fresh back then now feel dated. So that's why we keep transforming it. But the name change, like from Unlimit and Unlimit, was not that significant.
Yeah, but the only stable of fintech is there is no stable. I mean, it moves so fast. The only constant is change, right? Oh my God, like so much to unpack in there. Like the first was the fact that acting and behaving and looking like anyone else is not branding, is hiding. It's not doing any good. You might have the best product in the world, but then if you are a cow like anyone else and not the purple cow, you will not stand out. Because also the fundamental concept about human brains is that we are hardwired to notice what is different.
Yeah.
Back in the days, we were noticing red mushrooms and we kind of knew it was poisonous or an attractive partner, and we knew that we wanted to have family. And now like you said it as well, we are so numb by the amount of brands that we see. So you have to try extra hard to be noticed. And the other thing that I love, and which for me is life defining, because this is literally what I do for a living, is the company grew, the brand didn't. We became something that doesn't represent us anymore, right? So it's in the business nature to keep selling, keep evolving and doing more.
Yeah.
So it's normal for the business to evolve. It's way less normal for the brand to keep up at the same pace of business, isn't it?
It is true.
And like what the changes that you did and how you did it is fascinating. And like I want to tap that a bit deeper into that. Was the CEO always a believer of brand, or is that something he learned throughout the journey? Because
I think it's something he learned.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about our CEO is that I believe he is the driving force behind where we are today and where we're going. I have not seen a more hardworking person in my life. He is constantly online. Doesn't matter whether he is in the States or he is in Asia or he is in Brazil. He is working nonstop. And sometimes he's much quicker in replying to emails or communication than even our colleagues who are based with us here or in London with a much less...
He loves it, I guess.
Exactly. He lives for what we're doing. And he can be very demanding, but because he's demanding to himself and to the company first and foremost. The thing I will say is he inspired me, and this is one of the reasons why I've been with the company for 5 years, because he is constantly working on himself and he is constantly saying we need to do more. We need to have quantum leaps. No, that's what everyone's doing. What else can we do? How else can we do it? And this was long before he started kind of dabbling into marketing or brand. So he took that mentality, and when I became CMO and when we started kind of collaborating more and working more on building out the marketing direction for the company, he implemented the same approach to what we were doing.
Love it.
So he gave me creative freedom, which not a lot of CEOs would do. A lot of the times they feel that, especially with things like social media, oh, we know better. No, you need to write it this way. No, the text should be super salesy and promotional. No, he gave us the freedom to try and experiment. For example, we have our own YouTube interview series, one that's all about female empowerment and giving a platform to female professionals in STEM, and the other one is about celebrating senior management in various verticals, called Journey to Success. There was a year when Web3 was kind of gaining momentum, and I said, hey, what if we try and do Web3 game reviews? And he was like, let's do it. He gives you the opportunity to try things. He gives you the opportunity to take risks, and he's not afraid of taking risks himself. So I feel that that's why we were able to do what we did with the brand. That's why we are able to continue evolving the brand, because it's just never enough for him. And it's something that is in the essence of how he leads the company.
I love that, and I'm not afraid to say it's very rare.
Yeah, it is.
I think we resist change as human beings, right? So the Kubler-Ross parable of change, right? So when change happens, you go down, and then you resist it, you don't want it, you hate it, but then ultimately you end up on the better side. But we hate that, and I think businesses and especially C-suite, they like predictability, right? They like to be in the comfort zone. So the fact that he managed to transition, he's wanting to more into doing more into the brand and marketing is also really smart, because nowadays there are red oceans everywhere. That's the reality. Product-wise, tech-wise, the chances are very little that you have the most innovative product in the world. So if your product is good, obviously, right? That's the good benchmark. But differentiation needs to come from several other factors 100%. As well.
And I feel it's also, I agree with everything you said, but on top of that, I feel that you also need to have this adventure streak in your character, because sometimes he comes to me with ideas that when I hear them, I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. Like, even for me, they're crazy.
What about?
Yeah. And he's like, and I'm like, do you like, this is huge. Like, this is a very big project. Like, this is like, nobody's done this before. He's like, yeah, so we can do it. Yeah. And I feel that makes you think that, hey, you know what? Anything is possible. Sure, let's do it. Let's go and jump, to the whole, like, to the very depth of something and make it happen. So I feel it's a very unique trait in a C-suite management that I would believe a lot of businesses out there require.
Is it ever scary though? Like,
oh, it's, of course it is. I feel that no matter how much experience you have and no matter how many projects you did and campaigns you launched, it's always scary. Yeah. Because, even when you feel you understand what direction you should take and what looks good, you can still make a mistake. And especially if you're working on a huge project that, has a big budget, that makes it even scarier because you don't want to mess up. But I'm also a firm believer that you need to make the best out of every situation. And everything you do is an experience. It's a learning curve. And if something goes wrong, great. Think about how you can make it right. and how you can still use it and leverage it in one way or another.
So going back to the rebranding perspective, because I know a lot of people are thinking about it, and again, it's a natural conversation to have throughout the evolution of a company. How do you manage that scariness, then that fear? How do you not get the cold feet and go back to how things were done?
For me, the rebranding itself and kind of changing the brand was not the scary part. I think for me was making the deadline of launching the brand. Because when you're doing a rebranding with a global company, a regulated global company that has a lot of products, a lot of interfaces, a lot of websites, a lot of legal documentation and different clients and yada, 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 everything needs to be updated. And I mean everything.
That's the operations after, right?
Exactly. So if you're saying that, hey, we're unveiling the new brand, I don't know, 1st of November, by that time, you need to make sure that on all fronts, you've updated everything. Everything's in new designs. Everything is done so that when they click the button, everything is new. That is scary. Because when you have so much to think about and there are so many teams involved and there are so many different aspects of it involved, for me, it's the fear of what if I forgot something important, and what if, something will not work and won't go, and kind of making sure that everything is also up to a standard, because you can't just slap a new logo on something and be like, right, I've rebranded, done, I'm out of here. You can't do that. If you're launching a new brand, and if you're, amplifying your brand, and if you want to make the most of it and you want it to really work, everything has to look good, like to the max. So even the small things, like, I don't know, a LinkedIn header banner, you would spend nights and days kind of discussing with your team, picking the right one, and kind of pushing and saying, no, what else can we do? How else can we make it? Would this combination look better? So I think it's the prep work for me that is more scary than actually saying, let's rebrand.
I love that, because one of the deeper conversation we have with our clients when we're going through the journey is that every single touch point, no matter how insignificant it is an opportunity to build a brand impression. Yeah. And the story that I tell to everyone is, like, me and my girlfriend wanted to go and have a fish taverna meze on a Sunday, and because in Cyprus they don't update the working hours often on Google, I didn't know if they were open or not. So I called them and I said, hey, me and my family, we want to come and have food at your tavern for lunch today. Are you open? And the guy said, I pick up the phone. What do you think? And I'm like, well, good luck with your business. You are not going to have my money. And I tell that to all my friends. So how damaging an apparently insignificant touch point can be for a brand and for a business?
Well, for me, because I'm a perfectionist, very damaging. Yeah. I have this saying, I always talk to my team as, I like to say that I'm acting as a coach sometimes, but I always tell them, I'm like, it's like you're at the Olympics and you know that the judges don't like you. So they're going to be extra strict and they're going to be trying to fail you. You cannot afford a mistake. You cannot afford it. You need to work with a mindset that I need to do 110% of the capacity that I can to generate the ultimate result. Yeah. That I constantly need to push myself. I believe that every point counts in a brand because it's about experience. Like, I don't know, for example, I can go, like the first thing I do when I hear about a company or a brand, I go to things like social media. So if the page and the feed and the imagery and the creatives that are there are very simple and cheap looking.
And this is this is what drives your purchase decisions, yeah? So this is what...
well, I would say that would cement my approach to what kind of brand it is.
Okay.
So I would judge a brand and how, let's put it this way, big a brand is based on the brand, based on how it's presented. So if let's say
across locations.
Yeah, across channels, across locations, because if you're positioning yourself as a really like forward-thinking business, but then all of your social
as the leading.
Leading.
Let's say you have the leading in the XYZ market on your LinkedIn. Nadia will check that this way.
Yes, exactly. I will go, and if I see that you have bad designed visuals on your feed, I'm sorry, but no.
You cannot lead.
No, you cannot lead. You cannot lead. Same thing as if, let's say, I see materials and a company is saying, I'm the leading, innovative. We all like the word innovative. Everywhere you go, everybody's innovative now. And then you look at their materials, or you look at their production, or you look at their website, and it's old school, with old school colors, with old school design approaches, with, you know, those like 3D word kind of pictures and pixel art. You look at it and you're like, how can you be innovative if your brand and everything about your visual representation screams 2000s or screams the 90s, unless it's really well done nostalgia kind of branding, which is a different thing. Which is a different thing. And again, if you do nostalgia branding, then it has to be super good.
Everywhere.
Exactly. One of the first things I did, and one of my most invested kind of part of my team, is my design team. I built an in-house design team that can do anything. We can do 3D modeling and videos. We can do our own animation. We can do our own illustration. We can do any kind of video montage. We can do graphics. We can do font work. We can create our own brands. Because I honestly believe that in today's world, if you're a good marketing team and you don't have a strong design team, that's it, you're done. Because if you don't have enough respect to your brand to make sure that the visual aspect of it is up there, then why are we even having that conversation?
100%. And how quickly things change, because I think me and you are similar generation. And when we were growing up, it was much easier to make a buck.
Yeah.
It was much easier to stand out. Now, you cannot disregard this.
You cannot, because we didn't have all of these platforms. We're literally spurted content from everywhere now.
Yeah, and consumers are so savvy.
Yes. And also the speed of consuming is different. Because, okay, like we would scroll on Instagram. We would read posts on Facebook. We would watch YouTube videos. Now you go on TikTok, 1 hour, boom, gone. Where did it go? I didn't even notice. And I've like consumed already so much information that my brain feels fuzzy.
Yeah. So
I feel a generation change, because, now we already have Gen Z, we have Gen A kind of coming up. B, a very different amount of platforms and content platforms where we're getting all of this. The speed of consummation of that content changed as well. And the format changed too. Because before you would have to read, which takes time. It requires you to think. It requires you to sometimes reread. Now you don't even need to read.
You're scan reading.
Boom, 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 boom. Next.
Yeah. So here's the challenge. We understood that everything is changing and brands need to live at the speed of life, need to move at the speed of life. They need to be liquid, right? So they need to be constant evolution. So, but in the midst of everything, what is the thing that doesn't change? So there must be some constant, right? So there must be a control system in everything. Like we cannot constantly just go everywhere and change everything. So how do you manage that relationship between who we are, what we stand for, versus the need of constant evolution?
I think that's a bit more about philosophy of the brand. So I think the constant thing that you have, because your brand can transform and it can kind of, evolutionize, let's put it that way, with your company growth. But there has to be something fundamental at the basis that everything's kind of built upon. So for me, you can call it philosophy, you can call it mission, you can call it, I don't know, values. Everybody has a different approach.
Slightly
to
different
them.
framework. Yeah.
Exactly. But it has to be that kind of base that you build everything on. And if that is kind of secure, you don't have a problem, I think.
I love it. And we call it the brand strategy, right? Or the brand platform. It's like if building a brand is a 5-story building, we have to make sure that the foundations are really solid. And why not solid for 10-story building, or why not 15-story buildings, right? So and in the center of that we have the brand purpose, right? So the reason we exist that goes beyond making money. If everything else changes, the brand purpose shouldn't change it. Or another beautiful way to visualize it, and how I explain it to the Harvard going C-suite is like a planet, right? So you have the outer layer that everyone sees, the inner layer that sometimes you can see, and then the other layers that you don't see. But then you have the core, right? The stronger the core is, the stronger is the outer layer. So, and I love what you said. The brand is constantly evolving, and they are living creatures.
Yeah.
If brand has the goal of creating an emotional relationship with the customer, it has to behave and act like a creature.
Of course,
right?
it has to change because your customer changes as well.
So true.
Your customer changes and you change.
Yeah.
It's like I would think that maybe a good kind of synonym would be a human being. You know, when you are a kid, you have your own kind of likes and approaches, and you know, you like this color, and you know, you like Minnie Mouse or whatever. Then you grow, you evolutionize. You can still like certain things. For example, I still like fantasy books and I still like Harry Potter. Not necessarily maybe for the same reasons as I did when I was 11, but I still enjoy it, and I can still geek out. I just geek out in a different way. So
true.
This is, I feel, a good example of the fact that audience changes.
Yeah.
It can mature with you.
Yeah.
It can explore new things with you.
Yeah.
You can have it become mixed because a new generation suddenly enters and kind of becomes mixed with the older generation. And this is a new kind of, volume 2 audience for you. And you just can't not acknowledge that from a marketing, from a brand perspective.
But it's so hard, right? Because business school is not taught creativity. And creativity is not taught business school. It's not taught business.
Not just that. You know what I found? Critical thinking. Even across from creativity, people have lost the ability to critically analyze and think.
Yeah. Because we consume content so quickly, I think, right? So so consuming content, interacting with content became so superficial that we take the superficiality into matters shouldn't be superficial.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I feel that this is why I'm always telling to my guys as well, to my team, I always tell them, you take time, brainstorm, gather together, even if it's the most craziest, stupidest idea, let's put it up there. Yeah. And then let's sit down and try and see how we can actually make it a real life working idea.
Yes.
We have this, I wouldn't say tradition, but every year, because my team is very remote, they're based all over the world, but every year I try to bring the key people in one place. This year they're coming to Cyprus, which I'm very excited about. And we sit down for a week and we have a strategy session. So we start with looking at the results, then we talk about 2025 and what are the plans are going to be, and they each present their own kind of vision with the list of their crazy ideas for their kind of vertical on what can we do, how else can we push this. And then we kind of sit all together and we discuss, okay, great, and we play the devil's advocate and we try to find a way how to really think it through, and then we try and implement it. Some of them do happen, some of them don't. Sometimes we do things and then we realize, it didn't work, we won't do it next year, what else can we do? But I feel that exercise really allows them to push themselves, from a creative perspective too, because they have to actually sit there and understand that, oh, I have to have like a presentation that I can present in front of my colleagues, and it has to be fun, and it has to be creative, and it has to, you know, really kind of engaging. Yeah. So I feel that that is a good exercise for any team to do.
I love it. It's a great talking point. Like one, and to add to that, one of the things that the word that is forbidden at the factory is I like it. Yeah. I like it and I dislike it. I like it or I don't like it. They're forbidden. You can only use it works or it does not work.
Yeah.
Based on the strategy that we developed, right? So we try to bring everything back. But yeah, like it's the story of my life, bridging creativity with business and coming together, because the power that these two sides have together, it's impressive.
Yeah.
But Nadia, I wanna drive a bit deeper into your background, because like you went from event manager to PR manager to head PR to CMO to now CCO, so Chief Communication Officer. In 5-6 years, yeah, is that correct?
That's just at Unlimit.
Right. So tell me about that, but also tell me about what's before.
So I feel that's the story of my life when it comes to different positions. I initially studied law.
Wow, I would have said you studied design or creativity.
I have 2 degrees. My first degree was law. I did not work as a lawyer at all because I graduated. I really wanted to do criminal law. My father was completely against it. He said, with your character, you're either going to get killed or you're going to like drink really heavily.
But the critical thinking.
But the critical thinking was kind of what attracted me there. And so I went for civil law. And then when I graduated, I realized I just cannot picture myself sitting at a desk with papers.
I would have never ever put you into the archetype of law.
Yeah. Well, nevertheless, with honors.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you graduate after 4.5 years of studying, and you realize that you don't want to pursue what you studied for, you kind of are lost. So I'm a very late child. My parents had me when they were quite, I would say, old. My mom had me when she was 42. My dad was 50. So I was a very, very late baby. By the time I graduated, I had to really kind of start working and earning my own. So I couldn't just, sit around and go and study something else. I needed to start working. So I went and started my career as a personal assistant to a vice president of finance in a small oil company in Moscow. And I worked there for 9 months. It was the best and worst period of my life. I like to say I was overworked and underpaid, but it taught me the fundamentals that I believe any future manager needs. So prioritization, time management, and really working well under stress and being able to
bad pay, but
good
teaching leader.
100%. After that, I left and I started working in a subsidiary of British Petroleum. And again, I went to work as a assistant in the IT architecture department. And after about 4 months, there was an opening for an internal communication specialist. And the director of the department where the opening was, who was not my boss, he came up to me because we worked together on different projects. He saw me with my kind of boss and he said, listen, I think you'd be great. Do you want to try? And I had no idea what internal comms meant.
He saw something.
Yeah, he believed in me. He saw something. He told me to go and prepare a strategy. I have never done a strategy before. I went to my elder colleagues and I was like, do you have a template or something I can look at?
Where is the PowerPoint?
Yeah, which actually taught me another very valid lesson in my life because I worked on that presentation, on that strategy the whole night. I came in with 20 slides. He looked at that thing, threw it away without opening it and said, you have 1 hour, go back. I need 1 slide to be quick win, time, value, money.
Brand on a strategy, brand on a page. I mean,
literally
strategy on a page.
No
one wants to read
exactly 20 pages.
If you cannot put it into 1 page, it's not a strategy.
Forget it. Exactly. So I went back and I tried to do that. Obviously, with internal comms, the money part is a hard one because it's internal communications, but I tried to like work. I remember sitting there and trying to
get the budget, you mean?
not the budget, but like what would be the financial value for the company.
Oh, that's unfair.
But I kind of tried to be creative about it. So I made a point that by basically implementing educational materials, we would teach the people how to do things on their computers so that they wouldn't go to help desk, which means we would save time of the employees of help desk, which means we would be saving money for the company. So I started working in internal communications. I worked there. I grew to internal communications manager. After that, in parallel to that, I already knew that I liked comms. I liked doing communications. It was something that I enjoyed. Marketing was something that I was very interested in. So I started getting my second degree. My second degree was in PR, advertising, and communications. I graduated and then I moved on to media and I worked in a press office. So I was doing very like traditional PR at the TV channel for a couple of years. Then I came for holidays to Cyprus because by that time I grew up in Cyprus, but I hadn't been since I moved away for university. I came back for holidays, reconnected with my future husband, and then after 4 months he proposed and I moved here.
And he's Cypriot?
He was originally born in Russia,
right,
but he's been living in Cyprus for 24 years. So he is a Cypriot already. He did the army here.
Yeah.
And so I came here. And then I started working and I found a job as a digital marketing and PR manager at a small local IT startup that was doing CRMs for Forex and real estate. I worked there for, I want to say about 6 months, and then CardPay hunted me. And the kind of story with CardPay was very simple. They initially approached me for a position of social media manager. And I said no. And I said, look, guys, I'm doing much more where I am right now. It's much more interesting for me. I did social media before. It's not something that I want to focus on. And they came back to me a week later and said, you know what, we have a position that hasn't been published yet, but judging by our conversation, maybe it will be something interesting to you. We have a position for an event manager. And by that time, I had already gotten a portfolio in content creation, in social media, in digital marketing, in PR, in internal communications. The only thing I had left was events. So I was like, well, why not? It makes sense. Would make it complete for me because I would have tried myself everywhere.
Yeah.
So I joined the company to do events. I was doing that for, I want to say about 1 year, maybe a bit more. And then the CEO approached me and he was like, you're a PR girl, aren't you? I was like, traditionally, yes. He's like, great. How about you start doing PR for us as well? And I was like, okay. So I started doing events and PR. And then another 6 months passes and he comes to me and says, how about you just take it all? And I remember that conversation because you would expect a reaction of, oh, great, I just got promoted to C-level. That was not my reaction. My reaction was, I'm not a marketing girl. I'm very, very comms. I always say that marketing people you're either more leaning to creative.
And that was from PR,
from head of
manager to CMO.
Yeah.
I
always say that people lean to either being more creative marketing people or more analytical. I'm the more creative one. I hate analytics. I don't like numbers. I find them boring.
So creative or performance, basically.
Yeah. So for me, it's more about the brand and, you know, the creativity and the narrative and the storytelling rather than sitting and looking at Google Analytics, for example. So I was very honest with him. I said, look, I'm not a marketing girl. Like, do I understand how it's supposed to be built out? Do I understand the fundamentals? Do I understand how to manage a team and manage projects? Yes, I do. But
performance marketing wise,
not something that I'm strong at. However, if you give me the freedom to build a team that I see fit, and build a strategy that I see fit, we got a deal. He said yes, he stuck to his word.
I love that. Like it feels really organic, but what were you putting to be noticed into that? Were you hustling? Were you working a lot?
I was just doing a good job.
No.
I think, look, again, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's like one solution fits all kind of situation. I would say that I think what my boss saw in me at Unlimit, what our CEO saw in me, was that he could rely on the fact that I would always give it my all to bring the best result possible.
Dependable.
Yeah. I was consistent. And I was never a person who would think of my own interests before the company's interest. So for me, it's a part of me.
Yeah.
So I'm always kind of trying to approach it from a perspective of how can we make it better for us, as in the company, as in our little kind of family and team that we built there.
Yeah.
The same reason why I moved to Chief Communications Officer. It was my decision, because last year, for a very long time, one of the main KPIs that we had was brand awareness.
Yeah.
Last year, our CEO approached me and he said, I want to add lead generation as the second KPI. And I told him, I said, great, it makes sense, because when I became CMO and I started, we did not have digital marketing at all. It was non-existent. We didn't have social media. We didn't have analytics on the website.
You needed the awareness.
Exactly. Yeah. So I had to build out everything from scratch and build out the awareness.
Fascinating that he added lead generation after awareness.
Yeah. It was more important for him. The brand awareness was more important for him always.
It's so
unique.
Unusual.
Very unique.
So unusual.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, I haven't heard it before.
Yeah.
We all go for the short-term metrics because they're easier to quantify and you can say it month by month, but we don't go for the long-term brand positioning and the awareness.
For him, it was the opposite.
Amazing.
He added it, I would say, for years after I started leading. And then when I told him and I said, look, in my honest belief, if we want to make both of the KPIs 100% and make them work, then we need to focus 100% on each of them. I'm one person. I can't do that. So I moved to the position of Chief Communications Officer, and I focus more on the brand awareness kind of KPI, and I work more with the design team and the social media team and the content team. And then my deputy became the CMO, and he deals with events, with digital marketing, with campaigns and targets, and kind of overlooks that part. So,
what's next for Nadia? What are you focusing on now?
I think just kind of pushing further and kind of really working and focusing on taking the brand further to new locations. Because you said it, not only is Fintech and the payments world a super dynamic world that is constantly changing, constantly moving, but our company is as well. So I think just making sure that we build out our brand activities on the same level in all of the regions where we are present, because they're all very different and they all require a very different, unique approach. I wouldn't say that we are on an equal merit in all of them right now, but it is definitely something that I want to achieve for the nearest upcoming future.
Bring it all together on the same level.
Yeah.
Love it. Listen, Nadia, this was a masterclass in branding and marketing for the fintech world. So thank you very much for that. Where is the best place to follow your journey, to connect with you, where people can find you?
I would say LinkedIn is the easiest way to connect with me and to find me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for opening. And we need more C-suite with your personality, with your profession, with your love and passion for the creative as well. I think I'm a firm believer, like if we bring business and creativity together, it's unstoppable.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you.
Thank you very much. See you next time, guys. Bye. Thank you.